No, how you feel?
It's a motherfucking footnote, y'all. My name is Jesse Dram. You are on the side quest to the I Hate Infinite Jest podcast. This is footnote number 2, where we take a look at the smaller works of David Foster Wallace. And by the smaller works of David Foster Wallace, I mean 500,000 words or less. Today, we are looking at Consider the Lobster, written for Gourmet Magazine 2004, where he went to the Maine Lobster Festival, the 56th annual Maine Lobster Festival, and he had a few things to say about lobsters and tourism and stuff. You know that David Foster Wallace, always talking about stuff. My guest this week, he is the host of the Nerds with Words podcast, the only host of the Nerds with Words podcast,
Whatever.
and one of the heads of the Drop Tent media empire that we're all hearing about these days.
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Neil Wood. You're a friend of mine, Neil Wood. How you doing?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Good to meet you. Good to see you, Jesse Bammies.
Good to see you, too. It is a little weird that I see you in person so much, even through the COVID thing, and this is the second time this week I've seen you.
I know. Especially you so laissez-faire. Again, I love the intellectual weightlifting you do while just at home laying down. Look at you, just working those brain cells, which I had to do when reading this.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, no, I mean, in the way of just like, I'm like, who let this happen? just like, why, what? Like, he's purposely like, this isn't going to happen, so it's fine. And he just, and then it got out anyway.
Well, I mean, hey, I'll be honest, after reading some of his works, this is pretty high up there.
I dig it. No, yeah, it was good. Okay.
But so before we get into Consider the Lobster, if you could give us anything, what are your plugs? What do you got to plug? Where can we find you? What's your handles?
Sure, depending on when this comes out. Obviously, there's nothing.
I'm putting it up tonight.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll be at Jackson Inn tonight in Delaware. So you can go check that out. I think it's just Jackson Inn on Facebook. Go check there. Wilmington, Delaware. Yes, of course. So if you're around there, come on about. If there's even space left, no one knows because I think there's only so much space. Other than that, just check out everything on the Drop 10 Media Network and Nerds with Words. We're probably not looking for shows until August, so maybe some live shows and things like that coming out then. Other than that, man, that's probably it.
Where can we find you on social media?
Oh, sure. Just either I am Neil Wood, really simple, or Neil Wood Comedy. So either one of those, just type those in and you'll see all the thingies.
There you go. Okay. So we actually talked about this. I was on Nerds of Words last week, and we talked about how most of my friends are not really readers, which you took a bit of offense to.
Well, yeah.
When did you learn how to read? Because this is news to me.
You know what? It's recent, and you know what? And I like to make sure people know that I do goods. You know what I mean? And no, but you know what? I would say though, especially over quarantine, I probably haven't done as much. I set myself out for like, I'm reading 3 books at the same time, like an asshole. And then I finally like compromise and get through one, and then I have to go into. But I'll always have like I'm currently reading The Most Evil People Ever, I think is the name of it, or just The Most Notorious People Ever, just like Caligula. And all. I read also very boring stuff, as Jesse has known. I will just read, just like the New York Times, like Smarter by Sunday. So it's just like dry. So this is perfect. This is just like, I love this, but it's not factual. Well, it's factual, but you know what I mean.
Right. Well, that's what I noticed is that you're really not a big reader of fiction. So this actually goes kind of right down the line.
I feel like a stupid person and I have shame. So at any moment, if I'm dilly-dallying, I feel like you're just not letting yourself get smarter. So you're stupid. And you need to get smarter at all times. You, unfortunately, have attained intelligence through just genetics, and I have to work for it, I think, is what we've...
I mean, I think I had to put a little bit of work in. You know my baser instincts are to drink.
No,
I should be drinking Budweiser and listening to Kid Rock right now.
I took the road less traveled. Well, see, now I don't think I think those genes are always there. I think everyone around you and your upbringing were always dampening their intelligence.
Right.
While your father was like clearly an intelligent man who just couldn't handle his booze and
Yeah.
pills.
Yeah,
You know
no,
what I mean?
he was a very intelligent man, but he decided, like, why would I go to college and get laid and make a bunch of money when I
Right.
can stay in my hometown and fight people for 30 years and die at 46?
You know what? And those are the choices, like the days of our lives. You know what I mean?
There they go. All right, so let's get into
Like
this.
sand through an hourglass. These are the days of our lives.
So, again, Gourmet Magazine 2004, the 56th annual Maine Lobster Festival. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read some summaries. I'll stop and ask you something every now and again, or interrupt if you have anything to say, if you have a note there.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So 80,000 total in paid attendance. David Foster Wallace is attending with his girlfriend and both his parents, like a nerd.
Yeah.
Footnote 2 informs us that all his travels companions have made it clear to him from the beginning they do not want to be talked about in the article. Should also be noted, even in a 7-page article, David Foster Wallace has 20 footnotes.
Yep.
Now, I've gotten used to this. How do you feel about all the footnotes?
Man, I guess, you know what, and even from my college days, I thought they were going to be, I forgot that footnotes just means like, oh, it's just something else that they wanted to throw in. It's not like citations. Like, it's not like, oh, there's like important things you need to know for the context of theirs. He's more just like, no, I want to plug some shit in here. And I need to, like, because some of it isn't, I mean, he goes with like deeper into the topic, but it also has no bearing. I mean, it has some bearing, but not tons of bearing on. He's just like, nah, it's, you know what I mean? Let me just jab a little fucking jab in here and fucking put that in there. You know, I don't know. Did that feel true to you? I don't know. All the footnotes though, I kind of did go, all right, man, I guess, you seem angry. I think you're angry and you just want to work in another little thing here. It always feels like all his footnotes are what Twitter is, and then the whole article is more like a Facebook post.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I can see that. So just from Infinite Jest, where a lot of the footnotes really are just dumb.
Garbage.
They're pointless. They're not there for any reason. And every now and again, there will be an 18-page footnote that's just a conversation between people. I will say that unlike Infinite Jest, some of the best parts of this article are in the footnotes. And like the little screed he goes on about tourism,
right?
That is far enough removed from the main topic that I think it does actually read well, being a longer footnote. But we'll get back to that in a minute, because that one I actually have a bit I would like to discuss.
Yeah, I think that's like 6, right? It's like the 6th footnote or something.
Right. I think yes, I do have the one number. So he starts just detailing lobsters themselves, their crustaceans, their arthropods. Basically, giant sea insects that date back to the Jurassic.
Yep.
Great line.
Sorry. Okay.
No, that's okay. Get your Jurassic Park thing in.
Like, that's so cool. I love it. Now that when I eat them, dude, it's going to be fucking delightful when I eat. It's so good.
Great line here. Biologically, so much older than mammals.
You're stalling on my end.
What?
You were stalling. Sorry. Computer caught up. You're good. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Great line. Biologically, so much older than mammals, they might as well be from another planet. That actually comes in later. Drops the hint, also important later, their absence of a centralized brain/spine assembly, which, again, will become important. Garbage men of the sea, eaters of dead stuff, and occasional cannibals, if the situation should call for it. Which brings me to my first question. What is an appropriate situation in which you think cannibalism would be the proper choice?
An inappropriate or an appropriate?
Well, you know what? Give us the inappropriate, and then the one thing that pushes you over. Give us cannibalism on the fence, and what's the one thing that gets you over the hump?
So I mean, actually, you see this in most cannibal cases. This isn't even like a weird in reality. You will see this in most cannibal cases, except for the Donner Party. There's one guy who survived that it seemed as if he went a little ham, to use another. He went a little like they found him in a cabin and he tried to like steal the wealth and like silver. He had hidden it from this one family, and also said that, oh, she came in from the cold, was too wet, and then just died, and then I ate her. But he was like super pumped that he got to eat like most of the people that were in this cabin. So there's
I can relate to the guy. Can you imagine being forced into cannibalism and then realizing like, oh shit, I'm pretty good at being cannibal.
Yeah.
Like you
And
never expect it.
right. And famously, there was an Australian guy who got trapped in the bush with like three other guys. And just unfortunately, the series of events, he comes out, lives by eating the other guys. Unfortunately, like, comes out of it. Um, and like a couple years later, he ends up going back into the bush with like three other guys and then claims the same thing happened.
Just my luck.
Yeah. It's the same thing happens. He ends up being like brought up and actually like committed to a crime like for that. So he ends up being brought up on a crime for that one. But like, I love the idea of just like, yeah, man, I don't know how this happened twice. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, man. Did I leave anything behind? Like, so I feel like the appropriate time is like, Alive and, what was that, the Brazilian or South American team that was trapped. Like, those are appropriate moments where it sucks. It goes through the Donner Party. Although they were kind of stupid. How they got to do it?
Yeah, but it should always be a last resort. Like, if you lose the map, it shouldn't be like, okay, maybe we should wait till nightfall, go by the stars, or we can start eating each other now. Get a head start.
Yeah, no, there's multiple times where apparently they definitely actually had. There's at one point where they meet a couple of Native American Indians on the path, but they've already hacked up somebody and they're carrying them in their packs. Okay. But the Indians then give them food, but they still keep so there's multiple moments there where they just like resort because they're so tired. So I feel like the line there is, which has to be a fucking hilarious moment, Jesse. Imagine you just hacked me up. You're wearing me as a backpack with my arms over your
and you have long legs.
Oh, yeah, just like this, like coming through. Yeah. Like that, right? And then you just hear just like, hey, what, do you need assistance? Like, and then you're like, yeah, corn. I love corn. Let's just do that. Don't look at my backpack. It's fine. You're like putting corn in my mouth to like save it for later.
Oh, God. Okay.
Anyway, continue.
No, you're doing good. I have nothing to add. That's just funny. So back to the thing. We only think of lobster as a delicacy now, but up until the 1800s, they were low-class food for the poor and institutionalized. Quote, even in the harsh penal environment of early America, some colonies had laws against feeding lobsters to inmates more than once a week because it was thought to be cruel and unusual, like making people eat rats. But due to its plentifulness and protein level, it could be considered chewable fuel. Now that it is considered a delicacy, a new project of the sorry, I put the fucking wrong beats there. Now it is considered a delicacy, though a new project of the Maine Lobster Festival is to remove that distinguishment. It's emphasized that you can get a quarter-pound lobster, 4-ounce butter, chips, and roll for $12, only slightly more expensive than McDonald's. It is also emphasized that lobster has fewer calories, cholesterol, and less saturated fat than chicken, though DFW points out in a footnote that the lobster folk tend to ignore that the standard side of melted butter easily disqualifies any and all of the natural health benefits.
Makes no sense. Yeah, absolutely. It's ridiculous. That's why people in Maine are chubby. All of them.
I've never been to Maine. I will take your word for it.
Chub monsters.
They're fat on lobster.
They're delightful.
All right. Footnote number 6 might be my favorite part of the thing.
Right.
So he talks about tourism. Now, DFW seems to be eternally tortured by paradoxes.
I agree so much with this footnote. You know me. I'm very bad, and I agree with this.
Well, see, this is something the writer has said before. He's very fascinated with paradoxes involving experience. The other thing of his that he wrote that I really enjoyed is called Mary Austin Broke My Heart, which is about it was pretty much a review of an autobiography of a tennis player. And so the entire paradox he comes across in that is we, the layman, buy these books because we want to know what it's like to be inside the mind of somebody who competes at that high a level, who has to have all that pressure on them.
Yeah, right.
But the paradox being that for you to be that great, you have to have such little self-insight and not examine yourself constantly that you're kind of on autopilot and you can't even really tell us what it's like.
Michael Jordan's book, like the book about Michael Jordan, of course, they're very frank and stuff like that. But you have a thing of like, oh, well, I could never be that in terms of that mindset. Because again, well, yeah, it has to deal with the nature of experience at its very core. If you think about it, like I'm sure astronauts have to push out of their brain, I'm in space right now. I'm in space right now. I'm in space right now. If they're
Right.
outside doing a spacewalk, you can't just
Mm-hmm.
be constantly terrified and
Yeah.
try to operate correctly. So interesting, very
Yeah.
interesting. No, I agree with everything in it because you know how much like there is something innate in me to really, I don't know where it comes from too, because I would say that my family very loving in a lot of ways. I mean, harsh most times, but
Yeah.
like loving, but like, but consuming of all the American things that we like. But for some reason, I guess maybe it was early, just I had too much comedy and examination of like tactile and
Mm.
objective experiences where I just like spit on fucking tourist shit.
Yeah.
I can't be there too long. I can't do it.
I would honestly say that not specifically to tourism, but just experience in general. It is one of the things that comedians we kind of fuck ourselves over because
Yeah.
we can't simply just enjoy something. We're looking for the dumb
Ugh.
things in it from jump. Let me actually read
Yeah, keep it going, keep it
what we
going.
have here, just for anybody who's not hasn't read it in a while. So DFW does not understand what attracts people to these places, specifically the blue collar tourist. Has never
Right.
understood throwing on flip flops and driving the family into a locale to sample the local flavor that is by definition tarnished and diluted by your sheer presence as a tourist. By wanting to
Mary Lou, look at this. Like it's sorry, keep going.
right. By wanting to experience the authentic local experience, you are destroying that experience by being another loud outsider butting in. He deduces that being a tourist is good for the soul in a grim sense. He finds touristing in your own country, in his experience, to be constricting and humbling in the hardest way. Quote, hostile to my fantasy of being a real individual, of lying somehow outside and above it all. To be a mass tourist, for me, is to become a pure late date American. Alien, ignorant, greedy for something you cannot ever have, disappointed in a way you can never admit. Oh, I love that line. It is to
Damn.
impose yourself on places that in all non-economic ways would be better, realer without you. To confront a dimension of yourself that is as inescapable as it is painful. As a tourist, you become economically significant, but existentially loathsome. An insect on a dead thing.
Right.
Mm, mm, mm.
Very, very good.
In related
Very,
news,
very
I'm planning to go to Wildwood, New Jersey this weekend.
Yes.
Where that is one of the. I was thinking about this the other day because Wildwood was known as like a young people doo-wop town.
Young people do opt out.
That's the first place the Twist was ever played.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a true? Is that a fact?
That is 100% true. It's the first place the Twist was played. It was one of the first places Rock Around the. I think it was the first place Rock Around the Clock was ever performed live.
Wow. Well, that a lot of that makes sense. Again, if you know the Wildwood song, do not sing it. I hate it. Please don't. God, it does not represent the now like fucking terrible wife beater tattoo carnies that fucking just obliterate that beach. But at the same time, those are my people. Like at the same time, like I am I am a touch more educated and just know how to hide my trashiness and just go look at those people, like an asshole. But like those are my people, really.
You are the slightly genetically differentiated bird where you've developed a slightly longer beak to pull out the better worms of life, but you're still a shitbird like the rest of them.
Oh, absolutely. Still a crow. I'm just like my nose got longer. So my beak got longer. Yeah, I kind of agree with him in that grim sense. I think he hits on something really there. He is hitting on the Eddie from the fucking like National Lampoon's Vacation movies. Like he's hitting on the dumb fucking person that's taking like again in a country where you get to see like Eddie. What is the great joke that Anthony Bourdain, that one comic had about Anthony Bourdain. Like he had the perfect job experiencing such crazy things that we got to see him enjoy and things that we would never experience. And he killed himself. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, not my joke. I cannot remember the artist, the comedian at the moment. But so like yeah, like it's one of those things where you just go like right, and I don't like feeling like a tourist. I don't like. Whereas then you go to like Chinese or Japanese folks, like that's a thing. I used to see those tours all the time, and they understand. They're like, no, I go on a tour and then I do this and there we go. That's how it works, I guess. I don't know.
Like, see, I've always tried to get around it by just not doing the touristy things. Like, every place I have gone, every place I've traveled, I have always tried to go with pretty much just stay with somebody who lives there, so that I could be like an incognito piece of shit tourist. That
I've
like,
done the same.
But there's just so many people that like, oh, let's take a trip to the Grand Canyon, and then there's enough of those dickheads there that's like, yeah, let's go to the Bubba Gump Shrimp at the Grand Canyon. Like, you fucking loser. There is no ocean within 3,000 miles of here. Nothing can be good. But,
right, exactly.
Okay. DFW explains lobster season, that in summer they tend to migrate into shallower water, making them easier to catch.
Shredders.
That's right. Seeking out water temps 45, 50 degrees. They also molt their shells in the summer, which distinguishes hard shell and soft shell. Soft shell has recently molted, and their new exoskeleton is not complete yet. Goes into the process of the boiling process. The process of the boiling process.
Yeah.
This is what my notes look like. Yeah. I see.
And you read better than I do, which is again still blowing my mind. Keep going.
Yeah, and I'm reading things I wrote.
Oh, well,
it was written confusingly by some idiot asshole who's looking. That same idiot asshole that's always in my mirror. So now we get to the meat, pun intended. Drops the little hint of a line, quote, a detail so obvious that most recipes don't bother to mention it, is that each lobster is supposed to be alive when you put it in the kettle. That is lobster's big appeal. It's as fresh as possible without biting into the living thing. You look the living creature in the eye, sit your fat ass at a table while it is killed on your command, and brought for you to devour within minutes of its untimely lobster death.
Right.
Dude, eating lobster is pretty metal. I haven't done it in a while. By the way, when I mentioned to Perry what this article was about, she was furious that I did. Why didn't you ask me, the vegan, to discuss this fucking article? It's like, I didn't know that's what it was.
He doesn't make a point for it. If you read, read the article, he even says so. He goes, like, he's like, I'm not even, because when he gets into PETA, I know we're not there yet, but like, he doesn't give them like a case. Like he does. He kind of notes some points of just like, but then you hear him at one point, if I believe, correctly, if I remember correctly, he says, he's like, hey man, like, I eat that, like I eat that food as well. Like I want to eat what I want to eat. But at the same time, you have to think of like an entire fucking festival that is trying to skirt around the idea of like, you are definitely killing something on the spot. It may be climbing out of the pot to avoid death. And you're trying to be like, it's awesome. Also, fat Americans love pouring butter on top of it and shoving it down their gullet. And we pretend it's healthy. Like, he's hitting all the notes there. So, but I also don't think he gives it like a credence of like PETA, the whole thing.
Right. No, I don't think it does. It's the whole thing is he's definitely taking the line of like, listen, it's fine if you decide that you still want to do this, but I mean, like, shouldn't we be talking about this? Like, this is a big thing to just push away. To boil a fucking animal alive, and then 5 feet away, there's a guy with like, and I got rubber lobster claws. Like,
right. Yeah. That's true, and I guess he does the comparison as well. I think soon after this of like, which I think some places have.
The Nebraska
cattle
thing. Like, could you imagine any kind of Nebraska farm festival where they bring the cattle to your table, kill it in front of your eyes, and then throw its meat on the plate right in front of you? Like, that wouldn't really, with the exception of a place like Japan, where they don't seem to mind that quite as much.
Right. Yeah. I think out of all of this, I love his back and forth. Like, I really love his sitting in the gray and kind of being frustrated by the entire idea of the festival, stating you guys should kind of see this with much more humility. Because they don't. I think you get that from it. He's like, this fucking, like, dude, also I'm imagining all of this, all the people around him with like New England accents, which is it's fucking Dorchester around here. You fucking, get the fucking lobster over here. We're going to fucking shut you. Fucking get in there, lobster. You fucking get in there. Like, so I'm picturing this guy, like, again, seeing just trash New England folks and just being like, you guys have no respect for these animals.
I just imagine Southie fucking Boston people. Yeah, right. Don't feel nothing. Let's hacky sack with the motherfucker.
Here we go. Up. Aim for the pot. Here it is. Up.
Hack it in the pot. You cocksucker. Okay.
You fucking cocksucker.
He poses the true intended question: is it okay to boil a sentient creature alive just to eat it? It's told by David Foster Wallace's cab driver, that PETA was once a prominent dissenting voice at the MLF every year. They're still there every year, but it's become such old hat that the presence is no longer prominent. They've also become somewhat incompetent,
Right.
as this year's PETA representative was not only unnoticed by the author, but only appeared for one day during the annual parade on the other side of the pavilion, far away from the crowds. The cab driver gives DFW the common justification: the part of the brains that humans and mammals have to feel pain, lobsters don't have. To quote DFW, this is incorrect in about 11 different ways. DFW admits he justifies eating animals and taking their lives in the process by simply avoiding thinking about the whole unpleasant thing. He also realizes the readers of Gourmet probably don't want their eating habits questioned, but he justifies it with the notion that if the entire purpose of magazines like Gourmet is people who are thoughtful about their food, it's hard to be more thoughtful about food than the pain of the creature that is about to be imbibed. But good justification.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. I did like reading. I gave you an article to read after that was about the reaction to the article when it came out.
Oh shit.
That's
No.
okay.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I think it got
Sorry,
like
buddy.
it got something like 20,000 messages in it.
Really? Oh, I'm not
Oh, yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, people wrote it. Some people absolutely hated it. Other people, one guy wrote in saying his entire screed about tourists should be written above the exit portal in every international terminal in the world.
That's true. It's not bad. Oh, dude, yeah, we have a blueberry festival where I'm from. Now, if we learned that
That's right.
blueberries screamed doing half the shit we do to them, dude, which again, he tells this article, it's not screaming, it's air escaping from inside of the shell, like inside their exoskeleton or whatever. Like, but still, if blueberries were like climbing out of muffins, like as you're baking them, like like trying to get out, dude. Fucking just like fucking get in there, blueberry. We would never. We're monsters down there. It's crazy. So I get it. I think he shows here where like I'm siding with him. I'm siding in his frustration. The problem with the article is like I just don't. Again, with most of the things that David Foster Wallace apparently does, I just don't know where he's landing. He just kind of sounds like a frustrated dad walking around a fucking park with an encyclopedia. Like
I mean, that's pretty much it. The guy, if anything, I've noticed with the guy is that he seems to just refuse to take a stand or a strong opinion on anything. I mean, a little paralysis by analysis. It's like there's always more information that could change my mind. So if I make up my mind, then I'll be wrong eventually if something changes. So I'll just not stay away from the whole thing.
Yeah, it's what is it? It's like the monkeys inside of a room. Eventually, you'll write fucking Shakespeare. He kind of is just trying to throw fucking shit. He's the way I do comedy. He's just throwing garbage at the wall until he hits something that's funny or something. You know what I mean? And I respect it. And but a lot of times it's just like, there's moments in this, right, where I think he even says, he's like, oh, this isn't going to get through the editor. Like, he's just,
that's a nice
yeah, he just says, he's just like, I'm sure this won't get through the editor, so it's fine. But I was waiting for him to be like, I don't want to fucking be here.
Well, see, so this is the thing. This actually has a little bit of shades of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Right, yes.
Yeah, because if people aren't aware, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that book started out as Rolling Stone, some magazine paid for Hunter S. Thompson to go report on like a race car race in the desert in Las Vegas. And he just got really fucking drunk and high and fucked up the whole time. So it is this is a little bit gonzo journalism where, he starts out just writing about like, this is what it was and this is what they had. But then it becomes more like his individual experience and taking it in a meta aspect.
Yeah, it turns into a column.
Yeah.
It turns into a personal column. Like, also, don't say Gonzo. Anytime I hear Gonzo now, porn has ruined it. I cannot think of Gonzo.
Which is funny because I almost feel like
I don't know why they use it. I don't understand why they say it in that.
Well, also, now that we're in the internet age, quote-unquote Gonzo porn is irrelevant because Gonzo porn specifically referred to, like, films or VHSs.
Oh, go ahead. Gonzo, the character from the Muppets. Never mind.
Okay. But do you know what actual Gonzo journalism is?
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what it means.
Do you know what Gonzo porn is?
No. Well, no. I just see it as a term. I don't know. I always just thought it meant like wacky.
Oh, no. Gonzo porn specifically was films that were pretty much just the fuck scenes. Like no plot, no acting, just fucking. Like
that's most porn now. That's exactly. Like all the kind of. It's pretty much
Exactly. So that's
Oh.
so it's kind of a moot term because back in because you know
Oh.
how porn started. It started with the deep throats and the devil
Oh,
in the
sure. Things that
vagina.
had narrative art. That was art back then, buddy.
Exactly. And then once you got into VHS era, then it was like, we're spending all this extra money on writing. We could just
Right.
film
It's
them
fun
fucking.
fucking right.
So
Okay, thank you for teaching me something else, David Foster Wallace.
there you go. That is
And courtesy of Jesse Dram.
the three Gonzos. So details.
Because
What are you gonna say?
no, I was gonna say, yeah. Well, I'm wondering where you're at. Where are you at now? You're
I'm at the
PETA.
details putting a lobster into the pot.
Yes, I like this part.
So,
Yes.
despite whatever stupor it was in, tends to come awake in the boiling water. You can hear it scraping the sides of the pot or attempting to prevent being put in. And this, I think, is the great take on this: is we can argue all day whether a lobster feels pain the way we think they do, but if instead of pain we look at preference, it is very clear by the actions of the lobster, it really prefers to not be in that fucking pot,
Right.
boiling to death, and is certainly acting as if it is in pain, whether it is or is not.
Scanning, great point.
Yeah. And whether the high pitched sounds are steam or screams or whatnot, regardless, cooks are often unsettled by it and the clanking death throes enough that they tend to wait in the other room with a timer.
Right.
This I found hysterical. Some cooks address this by trying to mercy kill the lobster first with a knife through the forehead, which seems to come from, in America at least, we take a very Native American kind of look on that. It's almost kind of like, kill the poor thing so it doesn't suffer. You know?
Yeah, it's the Avatar. That's a dumb scene in Avatar where they just it's like, give your body unto mine. It's just like, yeah, dude. I mean, we're just in a city in New York. We're just in a kitchen. Just fucking stab this thing and throw it in a pot. No one cares.
But just the sheer fact that, again, this completely ignores the lobster's alien biology, in that lobster's nervous systems, with us, exist in the brain. With lobsters, it exists in several clusters of ganglia along its underside. So though it does, so pretty much this would be the equivalent of like, you wanted to take a chicken out of its misery before killing it. So you just stabbed it. So you stabbed in the ass. Like, there you go, Mr. Chicken. No more pain for you.
Well, I'm also thinking, you know why they just have in the head? Because we think head, obviously, we're dumb. Simple apples.
Head, brain.
But also, think about like in a kitchen, you're gonna have to have a whole like dissecting table. Like you'd have to lay the lobster out like this, like we're doing the fucking fetal pig in fucking high school. Hold it down and like snip different. Now you're diffusing a bomb, so that you just throw it in the pot. You know what I mean? Just like, let's just clip the red wire, clip that one. Oh, okay, now he doesn't feel anything. We're good. Like, we don't have the time. Just kill it already. I know it's terrible.
It says here the things could be worse. Some impatient cooks microwave them alive.
This blew my mind.
Yeah, I could see people, dude. I had an ex. You know what ex I'm talking about? Fucking she decided to cook for me one night, and this girl microwaved raw chicken.
Dum-dums. Absolute dum-dums. You'd have to cook it. Also, God forbid what it would taste like when it finally, I don't even know if it can. We don't know if it can actually be cooked through there. I don't know that to be true, but if it could, it would be in there for 45 minutes. And I imagine it would be, considering microwaves absorb water or disperse that water, it would just be the driest piece of chicken you've ever had. A husk.
It was. That's absolutely what it was.
That makes sense.
In Europe, apparently they are known to be dismembered live and cooked in halves. Another sad fact. God. This is the one that really gets to it, is just showing how wrong they don't feel pain thing. They might actually feel more, because another sad fact is the lobster, they don't have much sight or hearing, but instead mostly communicate through touch.
Right.
Something it seems highly unlikely could be possible from an animal that doesn't feel pain. And the little metaphor I have here is, it would be like saying a clitoris or the head of a penis somehow feels all sexual pleasure, but not a sharp set of incisors on it.
Right.
Just,
of course.
Yeah. If you're there to feel, that's just...
The argument that even someone, again, it comes from like the 70s up until probably the 90s and PETA and coming out, like the science, which was basically just guys in marketing rooms and in the lobster lobby, like trying to get past like making everyone feel good about killing animals. The sad part of this is like PETA's kind of right. It's just not feasible for us to do all of the stuff. Like but if we slowly decrease shit, probably wouldn't be as bad. And eat some more vegetables, probably not the worst thing ever. But like, it's so great that it's such a move point. He's just like kind of just chopping it away at New England. Again, this
Yep.
is like kids are running around. It's like, dads are drinking beer, and he's like, "You fucking idiots, fucking killing me." Every 5 minutes, like in a pot someplace. Like, it's sorry, continue.
Just the cacophony of lobsters boiling alive while like oompa, like oompa, oompa, oompa. Lobster's done, kids. Lobster's done. Even worse, whereas humans make natural opioids that flood our system in times of intense pain, lobsters do not have this capability. This all adds up to the possibility that not only do lobsters feel pain, but may actually feel it far, far more than we are capable of. DFW posits the possibility that their experience of pain may be so radically different that pain isn't even the right word. Like some lobotomy patients who would report feeling pain, but not disliking it or finding it distressing or trying to prevent it in any way.
Right.
A whole new level of pain.
Sure.
That sounds like it sounds like a tagline to an '80s Arnold Schwarzenegger's movie.
Well, this is why France eventually got rid of the the guillotine, because eventually there was too many heads that actually they held up when it got into like the 1800s. There was a famous incident. I can't remember who.
I know what you're talking about the classic.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. They had which one? I think I'm talking about the head they held up and then they slapped it and it went like that. And yeah. So crazy. So yeah, I mean, why are we think that lobsters don't feel pain in other ways? If our own heads clearly feel pain far after what we consider death, like, yeah, I mean, he's making points. He's making points. He's jabbing, dude. He's doing great. He's doing great.
So we're about to go very dark for this podcast, but you and I hosted the Magical Misery Tour together, the podcast where funny people discuss life on funniest things. Best experience of my life, personally.
I just pumped that podcast last night on another podcast I was doing.
Yeah?
And I was like, hey, it might come back. But I was like, there's some great episodes there to go check out.
Yeah. Hey, I'll be fine coming back to it at some point. It's fine.
Yeah, it's cool.
Once my little adventure is done. But you and I have talked about the fact that I used to watch a lot of like gore videos, specifically beheading videos. Which is not that I got jollies out of it. For me, it was
to the depths.
Exactly. It was literally staring into the abyss. I'm terrified of death. So you're almost kind of prepping, like, my whole thing is if I ever get my head cut off, I'll know what to expect.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Now, which any anxious person will tell you, it's just getting rid of the thinking ahead about your head being removed from your body.
Thinking your head. Yeah, of course. Nice. Yeah. Well done. Yeah, dude, I still can't shake. I've been telling myself ever since you showed me that series of photos from that self-masochist.
Coldness in my heart. Yeah.
Oh, ever since then, I've been like, Photoshop. I can't live in a world where, because again, I just can't have it. I can't do it. And that severe masochistic tendencies, which I think I should say, it's not even masochistic tendencies. Those are usually outwards. I think technically it would just be severe self-harm tendencies with, I mean, unlike I've ever seen. The fact that she must not have left the house. Anyway, this is sad. Yeah. But, yeah, I think he's hitting it there. I think.
But before we get too far, the specific thing I wanted with the beheading was that even having seen that, if I ever saw the description in a video about the head being responsive afterwards,
right,
I wouldn't watch it.
Really?
For me, it's all so much horror already, and for me, that was a horror too far.
I would have to watch it.
Really?
See, that for me would set. I never watched, to the credit of a lot of I've never watched any of the beheading stuff really. Like it wasn't something I needed to see. I think I got the point of it.
Yeah, it's all once. I'm good. Give it 4 or 5
I think I saw it once. I was like, no, I got it. I understand. Yeah, they're gonna But then like if he said it it went animator afterwards. Reanimator, excuse me. It went reanimator afterwards. I'd be like, ooh, I might fast forward and then just see what happens and get to the gush part. Yeah, I would have to check it out, dude.
Okay, well, if it ever...
We're going to make Lobster. We're going to make Lobster after this.
Okay, I'm done with that. DFW summarizes again that where pain is uncertain, preference should be noted, and Lobster clearly does not prefer being boiled alive. He makes the comparison as opposed to like a worm, which is cut in half. that the worm does not seem to be aware what has happened or wish that he had not been cleaved in two. He just kind of goes about his things, only now as two separate worms. In addition to preference, you must factor in they must be banded on the claws when held in captivity so they don't kill each other in the tank, which they do as the stress of unused cramped locations, they will strike out and kill each other. This is similar to the super cruel tendency of factory farm poultry being maimed and debeaked so they don't peck each other to death in the anxiety and stress of living your entire life in a kill factory. It's really hard to eat meat sometimes knowing these things.
Everything we do as humans is just pushing downwards. Everything we do, consumption. We've never once, like, there was a brief moment, like in like the late 1700s, when it kind of all equaled out, where like there wasn't enough factories, or even like kind of the idea of factories then, and it was just kind of like, human beings were working and with the ecosystem in a lot of ways. As soon as chemicals started, we fucked ourselves. It was over. We're like, yeah, you just put that in the ground. Don't worry about it. That village is downstream. Like, it just immediately started to fuck ourselves. I don't know. Yeah, in terms of it, like a take, I just can't. These things are just like, yeah, I agree. It's like, yeah, it makes sense. We are absolutely terrible things. I think it's the sugar coating that I think he would, if this was like a gruesome European, because I feel like a lot of European places and even like the Finns and like stuff like that, they do these festivals, but it's ugly and bad. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, or it's like China, where you're just like walking in an open wet market and just, every 5 seconds just hear terrible noises.
I have seen terrible videos from China of fucking dogs being hung and blowtorched alive.
Yes, that was the practice they did. Them throwing them off the truck for that time of season that they do, whatever it is some of the worst thing. Yeah, like, people freak the fuck out. But we do this across all the board. We do it across the board with all animals. Again, I'm making myself out like I just had chicken today for lunch.
Right. Well,
so I'm not like,
you know what? I think the compromise us as human beings need to come to terms with each other is if we could all just agree to think about it and feel a little shitty about it.
Yeah, that's the bummer, because you and I mean, I've definitely been, and you've been there, you've been across the country, and I've been in some southern regions where it's like, if you just realize, like, if that played a part in your thing, maybe it wouldn't be as much meat. And also, it doesn't help with your diet anyway. Exactly. It's not the best thing for you. So, but there's no remorse, dude. I think for your own self thing, it's like, for their own self-interest, you would never be able to confront that. That's like one extra thing. You're worried about your kid not fucking a cheerleader too young and getting pregnant. Like, you can't be like, yeah, no, the lobster's fucking screaming. All right, just leave it alone. Like, you can't. You just can't even worry
about it. The classic small America, like, I got taxes to pay that are robbing me blind. I ain't got time to think about a lobster. So.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. DFW questions why these questions are considered in bad taste, considering the magnitude they represent. Will future generations look at us the same way we look in disgust at Nero feeding men to lions, or Aztec human sacrifices?
Well, he's being a bummer. He's being the guy at the fucking, like, at the orgy who's like, everyone got tested, right? Like, he's, you know what I mean? Like, he's definitely popping smoke. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, continue.
No, he's being that dickhead. But then again, when so much, like, in any history class, one of the first things you realize as a young child is like, oh, wow, people back then were stupid. And then you become an adult, and then your kids say, wow, you guys were stupid. Like, that is just all of human history, is just fucking up, looking back and saying, oh, wasn't that fucked up? And then every now and again, you elect a fucking fascist, and then we're like, it wasn't that fucked up, it's going fine. And then everything writes itself.
Yeah, that's how, you forget how easy that system can be thrown off. Because, yeah, it's like, so many generations can make errors over and over again. But eventually that shit catches up to you if you don't keep yourself in check. And then, hello, 2020. How are we?
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I think we're seeing, like, modernization of, like, mini dark ages. And what I mean by that is that, dark ages, as we think of them now, really don't make a lot of sense because the real thing with dark ages is like,
also, Jesse, Black Lives Matter. Just calm down with all the dark ages stuff. I really don't prefer that kind of talk here. It's really not nice. Sorry, continue.
Dark ages matter. but yeah, one of the issues being it was like ancient Rome where they first discovered how to make concrete, and then civilization just fucking forgot it for 1,000 years.
True.
It,
Yeah.
in the technological boom we've seen in the last 150 years in this country and across the world, it is so alien to think that things can go backwards when we just see things on an ever rising slope. But I feel like the modernization into that is like every 20 or so years, a huge swath of the population who's been pissed off about shit changing, who just pulls the rein on fucking civilization as a whole back and goes,
Sure.
no, we're staying here for a minute. And then things progress again.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I'm definitely there's probably the one. It's not even a conspiracy theory, but when literary scholars and stuff like that, I'll mention like Chomsky and stuff, kind of mention that consumerism is kind of dependent on uneducated, uninformed people who kind of live precarious lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get, wouldn't it be kind of, it would make sense why companies, again, just look at any car commercial. I think Chomsky uses that example.
Mm.
There's not a mention of what the car can even do anymore. Like maybe you see that in a truck commercial every once in a while when they were like, yeah, now the bed goes down, but there's steps.
Oh yeah,
Like it's every once in a while.
Because every shit kicker in the country thinks they're like, well, I'll surely have to carry 3,000 pounds of material somewhere at some point.
Sure,
I'm an accountant, by the way, but
Yeah.
still, you know, you got to have a Ford or a Chevy in this town.
That's the way it goes.
Yeah, half a mile to the gallon. Rub it on me.
Yeah. Oh, I love the excuse in people. Gas is cheap right now. You'll have the car for longer than it's cheap, you dipshit. Like, what's wrong with you? What if it goes up? We don't know.
Yeah.
Oil's a tough time. But yeah, man, I think you're right. But are we going to be able to last? That's what I think I liked a lot about this article, because he's kind of like screaming at the sky. You know, like, here's all the problems. Here's why I don't think it's a problem that I mention them. Here's the frivolity, you know, in this whole experience in tourism and that as a whole, and like how kind of, you know, just inconsequential it feels. And as we keep going, I bet you if he was alive today, if he didn't kill himself, what, 2008?
Yeah.
He would kind of start writing and just be like, we're not going to make it. Like, we're all just keep acting like nothing is happening. And it looks bad.
See, it's funny. He's actually taking the line that a lot of dipshit conspiracy theorists use today, even though this is obviously different. But just but this person is always infuriating when they're the ones like, I'm just asking questions.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but their questions are always the worst. Like, if you guys will recognize this immediately. The questions are like, I don't know, man, but like, what if any type of pick a race? What if those people probably didn't have our intelligence, man? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Like, it's just like, you're asking a question is founded on nothing and implying a swath of information.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, are they even really humans? Should they be allowed to vote? I'm just asking questions.
Man. I'm just asking some questions here, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Dogs should be edible. I mean, China, right? I don't know. I'm asking questions. Like, I don't know.
I'm a truth seeker, all right?
Yeah.
I'm not a sheep.
This is the next one.
By the way,
this is the next one. They say, do your own research.
Yeah. Do your own research on unresourced right-wing websites that have a picture of Donald Trump in the fucking masthead.
Yeah. Typically that's how it goes.
CV1 News, Law and Enforcement Today. That's been a nice one lately. People posting that, like, but surely if the unbiased boys at LAET, I mean, God.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is all like trickle down news from consortiums of like think tanks that like put out news stories to make sure, like, oh, well, they put out something, we have to put out something, and we'll just push it. So funny. Great. David Foster Wallace would lose.
Oh, yeah.
He actually did. Then killed himself. There you go.
There you go.
Couldn't make it.
He admits his own rejection is based solidly that animals are less morally important than humans, but that his only real reasoning for that is selfish because, one, he prefers to eat meat, so he wants to not think about the morals of it so he can continue to do that. And two, he has not succeeded in working out any kind of ethical system that would truly be defensible as opposed to selfishly convenient. He insists he does not want to come off as shrill, he's just confused. If you think this is all a dumb argument, well, why? What makes it feel okay to you, the reader, to dismiss the entire thing? Do you think about your own reluctance to think about it? If you're a real gourmet, isn't being extra thoughtful about food the whole point? DFW finally concedes that these questions, quote, lead into such deep and treacherous waters that it's probably best to stop the public discussion right here. There are limits to what even interested persons can ask of each other. Nice
Mhm.
ending. Nice ending. Especially, he keeps bringing the idea of shallow and deep water from the
Yeah,
actual, from the actual lobster behavior into the
from the
thing.
motif, right, yeah.
Which, and I read that in the follow up article, something I love, that he mentioned the old frog in the pot thing, where
Right.
they said if you put a frog in a pot at cool temperature,
Slowly bring it up.
yeah, and slowly bring it up, it won't realize that it's boiling to death. Which that is kind of what he did in this article. It's like, we're at the Maine Lobster Festival and everything's fun and this is how lobsters are. Isn't it weird we kill them? Hey, I'll get back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't put that together with the frog. I didn't realize the whole article. Oh, but also I just felt like he was becoming more and more frustrated. So again, yeah, in that way, I guess, yeah, you
Right.
can all those lines in between them, that in the frustration of the article and his reasoning for asking questions or being perturbed by, again, just talking about like, why would these questions be even bad to ask? All coming to a boiling point like they would with a frog. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah. So that's the
I don't
whole
know, man.
article. This
That
is
was good.
yeah.
The reaction. So the reaction article was like a lot, like tons of people. They grabbed on the tourist thing. They like that. How many people were like fucking vitriol? Like they thought that
Uh,
was the
I think they said they got 20,000 correspondences. It seemed like it was like 3/4 were like, why the fuck did you guys let him do this?
right.
And the other quarter was like, this was great. I like this a lot. And
Hmm.
this might have been 2004. This might have been one of the first instances of what we see a lot these days. Of it was almost like a clickbait article
Yeah.
of like nobody's going to be so angry they're going to cancel their subscription, but it's going to raise such a stink that like the people who hate it are still going to seek it out.
Right.
So
Yeah, I dug it. I mean, this one won me over um in multiple points. And because at first I was just like, all right, man, of course he's going through. I'm like, all right, this is like a what do they call it? A little bit of I was like, I'm surprised he's writing a fluff piece. One. I
right,
was like,
yeah.
and then as soon as he starts mentioning like like this isn't the editor's gonna just pull all this and I hate everything. Like kind of I was just like, all right, man, I like this. Yeah. It's frustration in that. So, but I still can't condone Infinite Jest in any way. But I can see how his writing a little bit of the side. You can definitely see like, yeah, this writer gets frustrated. He tries to compensate with information, and then wants to, yeah, to your point, like you said it, he was just like paralysis because of analysis. He's gonna be like, what if this changed my mind? I'm gonna throw this point of view, and this point of view, and never get anywhere. But I love the little chef hat he put at the end. He was like, boop! He
Yeah,
put a
that was pretty
tiny
nice.
little chef hat at the end there. Yeah, I really dug it. I appreciate you letting me read it.
It would have been such a dickhead, hilarious move if he had if he'd ended the article with "Bon appetit."
Right. Oh, that would have been good. Oh, why didn't he do that? Oh, come on, man.
I don't
It's
know.
a
What
little
are you
bit
gonna
more funny. Just a little bit more funny if David Foster Wallace is a touch bit more. It would be much more interesting to read if he was a touch and
do?
leaned in a little bit more.
I will say, people talk about Infinite Jest and David Foster Wallace like, oh, he was so funny, but it's such a specific type of humor. You know what it is?
Yeah.
The reason we think the Bon Appetit thing would be funny and he would have never thought of it is he wasn't like a mischiefy kind of
No.
funny. Like that's
Right.
that's a dickhead little thing to do. Like, oh, I totally pissed you off. Yeah, have fun.
Right.
Whereas he really is more like, nah, it's more about like, I find comedy by like putting light on the shadows. It's like, okay,
Right.
I got you.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's a fucking Maine lobster festival, dude. If there was ever a time to fucking kind of throw in a little jab there, I think that was the point. But yeah, thank you, man, for letting me read it. I really liked it. I don't know. There's no like closing notes. If anything, I think this is a long literary piece that I'd love to punch up. Um, but yeah,
Let's do a part two. Let's edit this and
go dad.
restack it.
Yeah, I think we should restack it. It's gonna be good. But this one I did like he at first, because again, I've only gone listen to some of your podcasts and things like that, and then talking with you, I can't do it. I can't do Infinite.
Oh,
I won't. I can't read it.
for the listener.
Oh, sorry.
well, no, just for the listener. When I started the Infinite Jest podcast, I was a bit more vitriolic, like, yeah,
Sure.
fuck this guy, etc. But then I realized, oh, well, my real audience with this podcast is people who actually kind of like the guy or are trying for the first
Sure.
part. So Neil has instead become my real world receptacle for when I am so fucking
Yeah.
frustrated with this book.
Well, I know this is a Footnote podcast, so I don't want to get into it at all, but I would say that I can see how a writer like this could write a book that's 1,100 pages and kind of, again, like I said, throw a lot at the wall and not use like the tenets of like respecting the reader or giving the reader breaks and just, kind of abusing the reader. And him thinking again that he's doing us a justification, like he's doing us some kind of good. Because there's footnotes in here where it's like describing preference. Again, that kind of helps. But again, like we said, with the tourist one, like, that's great. But also clearly knowing that that's going to be butting up right against with what his job is supposed to be doing there. So it's a thing of, I could then kind of frame this out of like, oh, given a fictional story, this guy is going to plaster with like, more is better. I'm going to hit something eventually, and then I'll pull out something. And then we know I maybe don't pull it out.
Right. I told you, the book is 1,100 pages long. Its original draft was 800 pages longer.
Right.
Yeah.
I at one point though, the conceptual idea of the book is half the point.
Right.
Because that's the thing I still find, it gets my chest all tight.
Yeah.
Gets the chest all tight, and I want to rip off my chest. I can't do it in terms of like, again, because it's like, if I knew now how much if you knew now even how much people were going to talk about the idea of the Matrix on the internet being real before you watch the movie.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want it. You'd be like, that's fucking stupid. Like, that sounds dumb. Again, to the point here, it's like half the concept there is just like, oh, look what I wrote. I did 1,100 words and, blah. There's 45 footnotes about like nothing. Well, there's more footnotes than that. But anyway, sorry. Went on a rant there.
That's okay. But I think that is the podcast. So,
dude, thank you for having me on, dude. I appreciate it so much.
I wanted you on there. That's it. I've had trouble getting people for the main podcast just because I've had a few comics on who they've read the chunk of the book, but they have none of the context of what comes before or after it.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah. Like our friend Drew Thomas actually asked me if he could be on. I told him, like, dude, you have to read an 1,100-page book. I wouldn't do that to you. So
yeah.
But the appeal of the Footnote series is I can get some people on who I know are entertaining, that I have a rapport with, that are very funny, and maybe next time I'll be able to find one of them. But thank you for being the stand-in for this episode. Ain't I a stinker?
You little stinker.
I
want to go. I want to leave. Again, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great taking away from my work time. This is great. I love being here. And dude, hey, you look like you aren't dying, so that's good.
I actually got a blood test back yesterday, and my platelet levels are low, so I might have.
Oh, you are dying. Okay, cool. Yeah. There we go then. Oh, yeah, good. Thank you.
Anyway.
I'd love for your listeners to come over to the Nerds with Words podcast. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That's right. Nerds with Words podcast. That is Neil Wood Comedy, and what was it?
I am Neil Wood. Like
I am Neil
Wood Comedy, or I am Neil Wood. Gotcha. Either one.
All right. Well, I am going to stop recording, but you and I can talk for a second. Thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
See ya.